This is another episode of Owning It. And I know I say this all the time, but I truly, truly, truly am excited for my next guest. When I thought about doing this podcast, again, I had like top 5 people to think of, and this person was in my top 5. And I'm not exaggerating here. So please welcome Dr. Danielle Vogler-Bos. Did I say that right?
Yes. Oh my gosh, Wyatt. Thank you so much for having me and dealing with my beast of a name.
I try to remember Vogue, and so I probably emphasized the Vogue a little too much when I said your last name.
No, I love it. There can be more Vogue all the time. That's totally good. Yeah.
Right. So I probably did not say it right. So it's how do I
No, you
say it?
did. Yeah,
Vogler.
Vogler-Bos.
So you're a Vogue boss, basically.
I am a Vogue boss.
Woohoo! How fabulous!
Yeah. I know, right?
Yeah. But really, I really wanted you, Dr. Danielle, to be on because especially in 2024, I feel like there's a lot of female rage about women in our bodies, and we're frustrated. We're so done, and we're so full of rage about our bodies. And I wanted to have you on to really help me and other women to help us about our bodies because tell me we're not crazy. Are we crazy about our bodies?
You are not crazy, I promise you. I
Okay.
hear this time and again where women are feeling dismissed or not understood in their health journey. And that's just, it's time to change.
It is time to change. And so I'm 41. I'm gonna be very open, and my body's whacked. I'm not gonna lie, it's so whacked. And somebody was saying, God, I'm feeling hot today, or I'm like, I'm feeling cold. And then when I go sleep, I'm feeling hot. And then I'm waking up at 3, 4 a.m. And I don't want to be awake at 3, 4 a.m. And so there's a lot of things going on with our bodies, and we are being dismissed. We're being told like we just need to lose weight. We have anxiety. We have
Mm-hmm.
all these things, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's in my head. It's all in our heads, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
in our heads.
Yeah, it's not in your head. I mean, the hormones are in your head, but what you're feeling is not in your head, and you are not crazy.
Okay, thank you.
Let's make that point.
Thank you. I think,
I
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Our body has this really great communication system. We actually have two, and we have our nervous system and our all the brain and the spine, all those pathways, but our hormone system is that other huge communicating system. And we have lots of different hormones that are communicating. And so there's a lot of things that can be beautiful about that system, but there are a lot of things that can become unbalanced or changed or shifted because of our varying degrees of hormones that are natural transitions. With that being said, it's not crazy to feel like you have these varying different things. And there's a lot of great therapies out there that aren't discussed, and a lot of education and understanding that we can talk about that support our body in those different phases, whether it's in our cycling years, fertility, that transitional year, perimenopause, and even post-menopause. Like there's so much beautiful things that are happening. We just need to know how to harness it. And so I'm here for that change. Like I want us to feel bright and beautiful and vibrant and excited for life, no matter where we're at in that communication. So
That's beautiful. And so you are the founder of By Design Integrative Medicine.
yes, I am.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so my biggest thing with opening By Design Integrative Medicine was to be positioned to help women specifically in all those different transitions that I just talked about, because we do have all these different shifting patterns that again are natural, but there's a lot of things that are happening in our environment, new stressors, new foods, new pressures, and things that are kind of maybe making those hormone changes shift differently. And so I wanted to be a huge resource for women in our community at whatever phase we were in. And I also really advocate for it to be fun, because health is always with us. It's not this destination or this point to be at. It's literally that we are always in continuous motion or maintenance. Like, think about your car. Your car has to go in more than once a time a year to get an oil change or tire rotation, things like that. Why is it so weird to think that our body wouldn't need something of that same nature? Like, our house needs it, our car needs it, things like that. And we have all these different systems that are, again, so amazing when you dive into them. Like, we are constantly in that motion of needing to support it. So I wanted healthcare to look different. I wanted to feel like a place of safety, a place to talk, a place to like understand that you're not the only one going through it. And I want it to be fun. Honestly, I want you to feel fabulous and enjoy your experience, which is why I tried to make my space and my like vibrancy kind of like elegant and exciting to be in, because I want it to be that way for you. I wanted to enjoy that experience, whoever walks through my door.
So it's not a dark, dingy office space
It's
where we're at the
not a
hospital.
no. Like, I want it to be like fun and fabulous. Like, you can't see them here, but like having like chandeliers and like just
Ooh.
cozy and like more modern, and you're just
Mm.
seeing it behind me. But I just wanted to feel like really high vibration, because I think that when we walk into these like quote unquote like very sterile or dark environments, it's not healing to it. Like, you walk in, you're kind of like cringing, right? Your body is immediately going into this like stress response. I mean, I can go off side tangent here, but a lot of people, when they go to the doctor, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, where they have like white coat syndrome, where like their blood pressure goes way elevated. I mean, that is a thing that happens to a lot of individuals. And that's a problem. If
Yeah.
we're like sitting people to the doctor and they're immediately going into this high stress state every single time they walk through the door. I don't want that here. Like, I want you to feel like you sat down in a comfy, cozy place that you feel comfortable in, that you feel safe and can talk about your health concerns, right? So
I
no more
love
high blood
that.
pressure in a high doctor's office because you're stressed out being there.
I mean, just when I go to the doctor and I have to park in their parking, I just feel like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, and then you check in and you sit and you're just like, I'm just thinking internally like this. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my god," and then they make you wait 30, 40 minutes, and they're late, and you're just feeling all of that, and then they weigh you, they do all this, and they tell you, just relax," and you're like, "I'm trying to relax," and so it's really stressful, and when you think of kids and pets going to the vet with the doctor, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. It's like
Yeah.
just a stressful environment where you feel stressed already, and you're going in to talk about very personal things. So it's
Yeah.
just nobody wants to go.
No, I've actually experienced it myself. A doctor needs a doctor. So, I go get my annual physical or whatnot. I walked in one time a couple of years ago for a physical. I spent more time filling out paperwork than I did seeing the individual. And the few minutes I was with this individual, I was really disappointed. I honestly, being a medical professional, didn't even stand up for myself because I was in such shock about my experience. It was so uncomfortable. I honestly was like, I'm not even going to say anything back, probably, because there's what difference is it going to make? So
Mhm.
I really take that to heart, because if I'm feeling this way as a medical professional, and like you for sure, like you going in, like, how are all these others that aren't in the medical field feeling when they go into an office, whether it's the eye doctor or dermatology or, annual physical. So yeah, it's really important for me to like create that environment that feels comfy.
Yeah, thank you for that. And so you're a naturopathic doctor, and
Yes.
can you explain more about what a naturopathic doctor does? Because I think a lot of people are hearing more about that, but they don't
Yeah.
understand what a naturopathic doctor is, and how are you different from like a regular um, primary care doctor?
For sure. That's a great question. And I get asked this quite a bit. I do agree. There's a lot of words being thrown out today. So you might have heard like there's conventional or allopathic doctors, there's DOs, there's integrative and functional being thrown around as well. And naturopathic medical doctors practice integratively and functionally. So if you ever hear the word integrative or functional, it's possible that you're working with a naturopathic doctor, but it's also possible that you're working with a medical doctor or a DO. So I'm going to take a step back on that. Practicing integratively or functionally is a style of practice. So naturopathic medical doctors are trained already in the realm of integrative or functional practice. And what that means is taking a step back and looking at the individual as a whole person rather than just an organ system, and also trying to dive in more root cause approaches so that we're kind of acknowledging all these other factors that might be contributing to your symptoms. So I kind of give the example of headaches. If you go and you talk to a conventional doctor and you go, I have a headache, it is often that you're going to get prescribed anti-pain meds of some sort to help cover up the pain, right? And that's okay. That sometimes that's needed. That sometimes we need palliative care or helping get a person out of a state of alert. But what I do is I go, you have headaches. Why is that so? Why are you having headaches? Is it the hormonal shifts? Like, are you having hormonal migraines? Is it that you are having headaches from like food sensitivities and other toxicities? Is it a stress factor? And by going deeper and diving into that, we can actually identify these triggers and be able to kind of slowly chip away at the different things that might be contributing to it so that we can actually lessen the frequency and the intensity of migraines and hopefully keep you off of prescriptives as best as possible. So it's just a different approach. And so I love looking into biochemistry. So what does that mean? That's like diving into like your nutrients, deeper into thyroid and sex hormones, adrenal function, gut health. So like our microbes, our gut is like our second brain. So we have a lot of blood supply there. We have a lot of nerve endings there. We're absorbing nutrients, or we should be. But then we have this whole microbe system that is super important to us as well, and how we function. And so being able to like tie that back into digestive health, mood health, hormones, and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a different approach, and tying that into it as like, you're an individual and I really want to respect your unique needs. Not everyone has the same protocol. I could have literally I'll give an example, like 5 different polycystic ovarian syndrome or PCOS patients sitting in my office, where they may have a different look of how their periods are existing or how they're feeling those symptoms with their menstrual cycle. And each one would have a different kind of treatment protocol based on their needs, whether that's insulin resistance or high testosterone or inflammation status, stuff like that. So that's kind of what I do. That hopefully that gave a good example for, a couple examples of like how I approach things.
So you're telling me that you're not just going to throw the birth control pill at me?
No, we have with birth control. No. I love to have birth control conversations. You're laughing because everyone's
That's what I've been
birth
offered
control.
every time I go in. They're like, go on the pill. That's the only solution. And when you were talking, basically what you reminded me of, and this is not to disrespect conventional doctors, but I hear is we're going to give you a Band-Aid. We're not going to go dig
Sometimes
into
it's
the wound.
needed. Yeah. sometimes it's needed. There is a time and a place. And I too think there's a time and place for conventional care. And I'm always kind of thinking about that when I look at an individual's case.
Yeah.
But birth control does not need to be the only option. And there also should be a really great informed discussion around it. I think one thing about when we get told to go on birth control, it literally is just like, that's it, go on birth control. And if it doesn't work, we'll add another one or we'll switch it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not having a birth control deficiency. That's not it. Like that's not our body's problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where like I actually love having the birth control discussion, because sometimes birth control is a great option or tool for quality of life while we still work on like some of the other underlying things. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it literally doesn't make sense for their health goals. Like I have a lot of individuals that are coming in that are saying, hey, I need birth control for XYZ symptoms, but I really would like to get pregnant, or I'd like to see how my cycle is. Like I want to experience that again. So it doesn't make sense to keep slapping birth control on them. I also have a lot of women that are in that transition of perimenopause to menopause, and like understanding their goals too. It's a different phase. Like I've seen birth control used in that phase as well. And so just having that discussion about, what do you want to get out of this? Do you want to be on this? Has it been helpful? XYZ. I think then we can really make a decision on if it's really worth going on it or not, and for how long.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, I'm just a little flabbergasted because honestly, I had this type of conversations with my primary care provider, but it wasn't in depth.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
not in depth, like what you just said. It was more like, let's throw this
Mm-hmm.
pill at you. And they give you a couple options. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
monitor your symptoms. And if you feel like XYZ, we can try you with another one. Basically what you just said.
Yeah. 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 Like I said, I think it's a great tool, but it is disappointing that we fall to that as you have acne, go on birth control. You want to prevent pregnancy, go on birth control. You got period problems, go on birth control. Oh, you're starting to have like hot flashes and night sweats, birth control. You're depressed, birth control. It's, we could have a million reasons why the birth control is the only option, or might be the only option offered. So, but there's a lot of great things out there. There are so many things that aren't shared or discussed. And partly it might be due to time. I tell this to a lot of individuals, like, it's not necessarily the doctor's fault. I think that a lot of doctors go into healthcare wanting to help people. But it can be their training, and it also can be like the time that they're given. So one thing that I often find is when we're in an insurance model, we are very limited on time for discussion. And so 15 minutes is not that much time. Like I've done 15-minute phone calls, and I'm amazed at like, what can we do in 15 minutes? Not a whole lot, right? And so these doctors are having to make very quick decisions about your health that is very complex. And so I'm hoping that with time, it will change, that we will advocate for more time in the healthcare system, so that hopefully we can be a little bit more nuanced with each individual and having those discussions. That would be my hope across the board.
Yeah, I think you mentioned you pointed out such a great point. And as therapists, if you're in insurance space, you are limited on time and diagnoses and what you can do because it's a system. And so, was that part of the reason why you decided to open your own practice, or what made you decide to open your own practice?
That's a great question. I really had to think about this, because one of your questions, I think, was like, how did I start, or like what kind of tipped it off? And I feel like for me, it wasn't like one major, it wasn't, I will say, actually, before I even school, oops, am I there?
Yep,
Am I still there? Okay.
Yep.
So yay. So
I know.
actually, I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs and leaders. And I actually thought that when I was going to be leaving medical school, that I would actually step into my own private practice right away.
Okay.
But as I approached graduation for a medical school, I actually decided that it was really critical and really important to me to get additional value in working in other offices.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because it's one thing to learn textbooks and to understand how to diagnose and treat. It's another thing on how to put it into practice and work with a lot of different personalities and different people. And it was important for me to gain bedside manners. That was a huge piece for me. And
Mm-hmm.
also to gain some of that other knowledge that you don't necessarily get when you sit in school. Like there's a whole aspect behind the scenes, but other than just treating people up front, there's a lot of like
Yes.
standard operation procedures for safety and ordering things like labs or prescriptions or product, and how do you put them in, still have a good system so that they don't get lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like one thing, a lot of complaints is that like they feel like individuals feel like a number. They don't feel like they have, like they're not remembered or things like that. Like that's really important to learn those types of things that help us stay really organized and clear to everyone's needs and goals. And so I really actually wanted that additional step. So I actually forego doing my own private practice coming out of school, but it was like when. I just didn't know when. And I really, through this process, probably since making the decision to go to medical school, have really tried to be really intuitive with
Mm-hmm.
what I'm being called from a higher power. Like I feel like whether you want to call it God, a spiritual force, just like these messages that are being sent to you, I feel like it's really important to kind of keep an eye on those like intuitive pieces that you're picking up, because I think there's always a time and a place that you're supposed to be in. And so when I came out of school, I just didn't feel like that was what I was being called to do. And then 2 years ago, because I'm almost been in practice for 2 years on my own for my private practice, I was starting, yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. I was
Congratulations.
actually starting to feel that. I was starting to feel some
Yeah.
like internal shifts and some like signs that that there was space for me to grow that I wanted to get
Mm-hmm.
into. And I felt a little bit, more aligned with what I thought I was going to do years
Mm-hmm.
prior.
Yeah.
So, and one of the beautiful things is I have an awesome husband. We sit down and we do like kind of like a New Year's and also kind of around our fall, like our anniversary, we do like these goals. We always write it down, like what do we want to achieve personally and professionally, and like how do we want to grow in different areas of our life. And it was just starting to be more clear to me that doing the private practice piece was time. It was time for me to step out and do that. And I was really excited because I know that you love like the different signs, and I'm an Aquarius Pisces. So if you want to dive into that.
I'm an Aquarius rising. So yeah, I'm a Libra sun and Aquarius rising. So I have some of that too. Yep.
Yeah. I just like, I love my freedom, and I love to have like my own kind of personal touch to it. And I was needing that for myself. Like I was thinking about what would it look like for me to work a 9-to-5 job for the rest of my life in terms of like my personal being and who I am.
Yeah.
And it just was feeling a little like rat races, like a rat race. Like it was just feeling like, oh my gosh, just this constant, like never ending change. And so I was kind of starting to feel a little like, I don't know, crammed into that little like box of 9-to-5. And I'm like, I need something different for me.
Yeah, it's funny. So again, I'm an Aquarius rising, and they say that we like to challenge the status quo. I'm like, yeah, that sounds all right. I
Yeah.
would like to challenge the status quo. It's not that I want
Yeah.
to, it's just something innate where when you said
Yeah.
5, I kind of wanted to barf. I know that's a overactive reaction, but that's how I felt. I mean, I did this for 14 years before I went on my own. So yeah, I went through all of that, and I was just like, something's missing in my life. And every 2 to 3 years, I would feel this like something's missing from my life. And did you feel that way at all? Like you were just like something's missing, or were you like it's just time?
Yeah, I think that maybe I didn't hear it right away because I have to say, like, being really intuitive, I think that you really do have to like be very centered, like take time to be bored, go for a long run, like things that like allow you to just kind of have your mind wander and hear those different messages that are being sent to you. So I don't think that I necessarily maybe tapped into it right away, but eventually I think it comes to me. And again, I think in that there's still like this timing aspect that's out of my control too. So I think it all aligned the way that it was supposed to. Like, I truly believe that like everything, little messages and everything have landed me in the right timing for me.
Yeah.
So,
So
and it sounds like for you too. It sounds like that's really cool to hear. I mean, I think
yeah.
it's really positive to show other people that like you don't have to be on the same track that you thought you were going to be on, and you can always like pivot at any point in life. Like there's not like this like cookie cutter plan that we think we need coming out of I know that's how it feels after like high school. It's like we're going to do this and you're going to do that and you're going to do this. But really in reality, does it really attune with your life? Does it really like vibrate within you?
Yeah, and this is why you're forging your own path and you're owning it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um so when you talked about like school, how is your
Mm-hmm.
schooling different from a like an MD?
So in a lot of ways it's the same, but
Okay.
there are some differences. So a lot of times I think that there's this misconception that naturopathic medical doctors aren't getting medically trained. Like maybe we're more on the line of like influencing or just health coaching, which is there's a lovely place for all those things. But it actually is school designed to be like medical school, and it is very much so. Like you're getting the biochemistry and you're doing human anatomy, you get out the cadavers, you learn, exam,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things are very similar.
Mm-hmm.
But um we get a lot of training in, I hate the word alternative, but everyone calls it kind of like alternative therapies. So botanicals, nutraceuticals, so meaning like therapeutic nutrient dosing structures, doing like hydrotherapy, so using water and temperature as a means of therapy, homeopathy, a like cures like system that we have that's offered, acupuncture, physical medicine, so like manipulation, kind of like chiropractic care work. There's all these beautiful things that we know are really effective, whether it's been done for years on end, or there's some really great studies around it. And so we get a lot of this hands-on training that allows us, I kind of just say like more tools in the toolbox in terms of treating. Because when we think about our principles in school for naturopathic medical doctors, we get a variety of principles that we kind of are guiding on. And one of them is actually like a hierarchy of treatment. And so kind of the bottom is more like your basic things like sleep and food and, like things that we kind of take for granted. And then at the top of that point is surgery. But there's all these little things in between that you have that you can utilize. You don't always have to jump to surgery to be healthy, right? So I think the biggest factor is we get some more tools in our toolbox in terms of therapies, And with that helps us to actually know like how to work with interactions. So a lot of times we have patients that say, oh, I'm on these prescriptives or on this type of regimen, but I would like to add in nutrients or botanicals or other types of combinations. Like, how do they interact safely? So we can really bridge the gap between both of those worlds. But I think another big piece is like our principles and how we approach like your body and how we want to like support you, because we don't really think about like suppressing. We don't like to suppress symptoms necessarily, because we believe the body has like this really intuitive message. Like the symptoms that we're experiencing is our body just saying, hey, something is off. And the louder those symptoms become, the more it's being like, hey, something is really off. And so what we think of it as is like, instead of suppressing, how do we just like rebalance our body? Because our body is really intelligent. Like, how do we just support that natural alignment again? So whether it's nutrients or hormones or, neurotransmitters, stuff like that. So, and then another one is nutrition or dietary things. I don't know what the hours are, but I know that it's quite a bit different in terms of like how much nutrition is taught conventionally versus what we were taught. Now, maybe that's shifting. I haven't looked at it more recently, but I'm optimistic that with the current culture and stuff, that maybe diet will start to become more prevalent in treatment plans as well. Like,
Wow.
expanding our like quality and our variety and being mindful of like what we're consuming. So
You said the word mindful, and again, I don't mean to use my experiences. It's like I've never heard my doctor say the word mindful once at all, and it's kind of true. I've never heard of my doctors at the big hospitals use the word mindful. And so to me, it seems like like naturopathic is trained in a very holistic mind, body, soul, spirit kind of way, would you say, or no?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of spectrum, but I think that, yes, generally we are really being mindful of like mind, body, spirit, all the different facets that make up you as a being, and how can we support that in healing.
So what made you decide to be a naturopathic doctor versus like a regular MD doctor who works at a hospital?
That's a great question. Well, I don't know if you all know this about me, but I actually thought I was going to be an eye doctor way back in the day. So I'm
An
glad I didn't go that
ophthalmologist
route.
or an optometrist?
Yeah. I don't know exactly. I don't think I made a decision on that piece. But I've been in glasses since I was one, and I just thought, oh, like I'll really resonate with people that need glasses. Like,
Yeah.
I've been in glasses, right? But I was super bored. So one of the things I was fortunate to do was actually shadow a lot of different healthcare departments. One
Okay.
being the Lakeville Hospital in Stillwater, Minnesota. The director at the time that I was there, Joe Sitlow, I got to go in and like sit in all these different departments. I was riding with the emergency team and the ambulance. I literally was sitting in the oncology unit one day. I'd be doing PT and OT the next day. All these different things. And I already, when I was really young, thought that I wanted to be a doctor, partly because like I only have a couple other doctors in my family. They're married. No one else in the family is doctors, just this couple. And so she would get me gloves and like the surgical caps and stuff like that. So if you asked me when I was young, I would say pediatrician, because that's what she was at the time. Or it still is.
Okay.
And so I would say that like really did like learning about the body. Like I really find it really fascinating, and was really good at cellular biology in undergrad, along with doing this kind of navigation in the medical world. Death on my end. So yeah,
Yep. So good. Yep.
basically all these little things were like folding in here, like all these different things of me being able to like learn about it, experience it. And then I was in the hospital learning the different departments. And it just started to click for me. In addition to the fact, at the same time that I was going through college, I actually watched my mom suffer with migraines for many, many years. And she had kind of gone
Mhm.
all these conventional routes, and nothing was really working. I mean, I remember when like the doctor would come to the home, like it was that to that extent.
Yeah.
And not until she started doing more like functional care and diving in with a naturopathic medical doctor that she was able to like identify some of these triggers that were triggering her migraines. So when I was going through this process, I was like, wow, this makes a lot of sense. There's other things out there that we can do and utilize in our care. At the
Mhm.
same time, I was learning what I liked and what I didn't like in the healthcare
Yeah.
system. I would get like this paper and I would go with these questions. And I remember one of the questions I would ask every single person that I got to shadow was, what do you hate about your job? Like, what do you
Mhm.
really dislike about your job? And I kid you not, I probably had 15 to 20 different sheets of these back in the day, and they all said insurance,
Yes.
dealing with insurance.
Yes.
And I'm like, something is not adding up here. Like, if everyone, this was like years ago at this point, it's still the same, right? If you ask
Still
people,
the
they're like,
same.
they hate dealing with insurance.
Mhm.
So, all of that to say is these little bits and pieces got me to like directed into this and like really thinking, okay, there are things that we're being preventative on, and that's truly healing. That's not sick care. That's healing care. That's what we want, healthcare.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Again, like all of us in the healthcare who dealt with insurance, a lot of us got out of the system because of insurance. I knew I got out because of insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And even though, so I am private pay and your services
Mm-hmm.
are private pay too, then?
Private pay.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And so some people are going to ask, well, why don't you take insurance? And first of all, does insurance even pay for naturopathic like services like what you offer or no?
That's a great question. So it's actually state dependent. So
Okay.
every state has their own scope of practice or are in pre-licensure phases. And so
Mhm.
the state is dependent on whether they are contracted with insurance or not. So there are certain states that have that ability to be contracted with insurance and to work with them. I don't have that exhaustive list off the top of my head, but a lot of them exist on the West Coast. Um, so that's a big thing. And then,
Mhm.
so here in the Midwest, we are not contracted with insurance at this time.
Mhm.
Not to say that that won't be the case in the future.
Mhm.
Despite that, I have thought about that long and hard, that if we did have insurance, would I want to be contracted with insurance? And I would say no. I'm guessing we have very similar thoughts on this because you said you went cash pay as well.
Yeah.
What took you to cash pay?
I decided that I wanted to do private pay and insurance. There's really a lot of rules. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of regulations. And again, when you met with all those providers, they all said insurance, and that's what it is for us too. We don't
Mm-hmm.
get to practice the way that we want to practice. There's a lot of limitations that are put on us if we go the
Mm-hmm.
insurance route, where we don't feel that we get to actually be the practitioner that we want to be. Insurance can
Yeah.
dictate to us about what kind of practice or what kind of modalities, how often they're seen. They put a lot of conditions on us as practitioners. So we don't get the freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have the steadiness, but there's
Mm-hmm.
also a lot of red tape and paperwork. And for our field in therapy, they can deny us and they can claw back
Right.
money that they felt like, hey, we don't think that we should have paid you all of this. And it's been 5 years and you owe us like $10,000. And I'm not exaggerating. I've heard some therapists gone through this nightmare. And to me, it's just too much of a risk
Mm-hmm.
for everything that I have done. that it's
Mm-hmm.
like, no, it's not worth it. Even though there's a steadiness of income, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to put myself through that.
Yeah, absolutely. Nailed it for part of it for me too. So I think it does create a lot of like limitations with providing really good care.
Hmm.
I know that rules and regulations are usually put in place to create like um good practices, I would say, generally speaking. But I think what you're highlighting is the rules and regulations that are actually stipulating and making it actually hard to give quality care at times.
Hmm.
And so that's a big component for me. In addition to the fact that I don't want to spend 15 minutes with you, I want to spend like an hour and a half with you for your initial and an
Yeah.
hour or 30 minutes for follow ups, because that time is really precious in terms of me understanding your health and learning about you and getting to know you. So that was
Hmm.
another big one. And also because of how the cost structure is for insurance, I think you touched on it a little bit, but for like blood work and stuff, sometimes if you don't have a code that's deemed correct for something, then a test that cost maybe $5 now got upcharged to like $50, went off to insurance, got denied, and now the patient's paying $50 for it rather than the original five. And it's like, that doesn't make sense. So
Yeah.
I think it's transparency as well, just being
Yes.
transparent about like,
Yeah.
this is what you're paying. You're not going to have like like generally like unnecessary costs show up in your lap, because we're trying to be upfront about what you're going to spend essentially. So I
Yeah.
love FSAs. For anyone that has
Okay.
an FSA or has the ability to do an FSA
Hmm.
or an HSA, actually like HSA is better. They're ironically a little bit more flexible.
Oh,
Those are amazing to
okay.
use, and I encourage people to use those.
So you accept those and flexible
Yeah,
spending accounts and health
health
savings
saving.
account.
Yeah, that's amazing. That way you can portion a dollar off of your income to
Hmm.
that's not taxed, that can be used in these different areas of your health that you would like. Do you use them as well?
I have my own private insurance, so I just pay everything out of
Okay.
pocket right now. And to me, it's an
But
investment. Yeah.
yeah, do
Okay.
you
Go ahead.
accept them? You accept HSA and
Oh
FSA?
yeah, as long as it's like a credit card, like as long as
Yeah.
it looks like a credit card. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So then that way you can go to the therapist you want to see or the acupuncturist or all these other providers that aren't seen as like in the system as, worthy of being covered by insurance. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
Whew, my goodness. And so you mentioned 15 minutes and then an
Mhm.
hour to an hour and a half. Is that the time that you spend with clients? Patients?
Yes. So, yeah, yeah. So the initial that I do, I spend up to an hour and a half with an individual. I learn about their family history in terms of health. I learn about their past medical history as well as the things that they've been trying to work on or their concerns. So we have a lot of time to do that. And that's important to me because that is like I call it's the investigational point. It's so important. As me as an FBI agent in your health, like I want to know the nitty gritty. Like
Yeah, right. Like the really nitty gritty stuff.
I know they're like, what? Why would I care about mom's history or uncle's history or whatever? Well, it's important. I see patterns.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyways.
And so do you mainly work with women and focus on women's health?
Yeah, so primarily I work with women, ages 16 and older, but on occasion I work with men as well. It's not that I don't feel comfortable with them. I think it just depends on their concerns or their level of comfortability. If a man comes to me and doesn't feel comfortable, I'm definitely going to help them find a provider that they feel comfortable with. I have different resources for that. And depending on their needs of like a physical exam, for example, if they need a prostate exam or something, we'll maybe use like their primary care to do that. And then we can
Mhm,
continue to work on some of the health concerns in between visits. So it
mhm,
just depends. But I would say a lot of the times the wives come or the partners come and then they kind of want their husband or boyfriend to come see. And that's awesome because then they're on the same page. And that's also big in terms of fertility, because that's another component that I work on in the office, whether it's preconception care for both of them, or maybe they've been thriving for a while and they want to look at their fertility from both perspectives. Because, when we say we're fed up with the healthcare system, one of the things I'm fed up with is like thinking that fertility is 100% based on the female, because men's fertility is important as well. And we're seeing a huge decline in male fertility as well. So
Interesting.
it's important for me. Yeah.
When I work with a lot of women too for therapy, and it's usually the women, my clients are the women that are coming in telling me they're doing XYZ, ABCDEFG. And I would ask, what about your husband? What have they done? Oh, they haven't done anything. And to me, it's like, well, how do you know that it's you? Because, they're coming to me with all these stress and anger and anxiety, and it's like, okay, you're feeling all of this and you're doing everything. And how is your spouse helping you in this? And have they too been checked out to make sure their health is like stable and healthy? And more than often than not, the spouse has not done their part, and it's the assumption that it's all the women. And so you're seeing something different. It's like, oh no, it's not just the women, it's the men too.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. I think men need good quality care too. They need
Yes.
it too. Like, I think research has been done more around men, but I think men have there's been this cultural thing of like, I'm a man, I don't need help. And I hope that with time that we can kind of break down that barrier, that it's okay to want to care about your health and be seen. So I think there is a different aspect to it when it comes to a male's health, for sure.
Yeah. And
I'm
so you see
curious, do you
fertility.
find that? Do you hear that as well from your side of things, or?
I do. I hear from like the mental health. I also network with
Yeah.
other professionals, and the finance part, like the future planning. It's like the women doing it, and the man is like, okay, I guess I'll go along. And yet and I'm not here to bash men or anything. It's the women who are
Yeah.
really taking the lead on their health, their finances, holistically. And some spouses go and some spouses choose not to go, and that's like emotionally whatever journey it is. And that's where they come see mental health therapists.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I love your insight, because I think you see it from you might see it in a certain way, but you might also see it different just because it's a
Yeah.
different field or aspect. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you see fertility. What would you say most of your clients come see you about?
That's a great question. I would say there's like probably a couple categories that I
Okay.
could put them in, because I work with such a wide variety of age groups. I definitely see a subset of girls that are like, whether they've been on birth control or not, have period problems and want to have discussion in regards to that. Maybe they're thinking about their preconception counseling kind of aspect because they might want to get pregnant.
Okay.
So kind of talking about that, that's a big one, which I love doing, especially when they're younger, because I think there can be provide a lot of value to them and actually set them
Mhm.
up for success.
Yeah.
But then I get a subset of like the perimenopause and menopause group that
That's
they
me.
may have periods. That's you. That's
That's
you.
me.
So maybe
I'm
still,
saying it. That's me. Yeah, that group. Yeah, it's me.
yeah. And there's a lot that are in that group that have been dismissed, right? They're like, this is normal. This is a normal age group type of thing. Okay, well, that's great. But you have a lot of years to feel vibrant and lively and reach your goals and be really excited about it. And so we want to make sure that you feel energized, that you're sleeping well, that you're not having hot flashes and night sweats and vaginal dryness and all this stuff, because life can still be really amazing. In fact, probably way better than when we're in our 20s trying to figure out life still, like in terms of like, what are we going to do with our career? Who are we going to marry? Are we going to have kids? Like, I think that honestly, this is awesome time to make sure that your health is in tip-top shape, because then you're past all that like hard life confusion, and you want to be like fun and exciting too at that time. So
Exactly.
I kind of work with that group, right? But I also get a lot of people with digestive concerns, like a lot of people.
Kind of
like
me
they've
too.
said, like,
I'm a mess. I'm a mess, Dr. Danielle.
Oh my gosh, you do not look like a mess, but I'm, we're here for it. We'll help you.
Thank you.
Yes, you're so cute. Yeah, there's so many people like you that you wouldn't know that they're feeling or experiencing this. Like, it's definitely like very internal, doesn't actually show on the outward side of things, but it doesn't mean that you can't feel unwell or have these like health goals that you need to achieve. So I think that's really important, because I think a lot of times when you think you're sick, you're like, you look a certain way. And that's not always the case. But yeah, I would say a lot of digestive concerns from like, I've had chronic constipation, or I'm rotating, like almost like an irritable bowel syndrome thing, which by the way, I think is a really crappy diagnosis, because there's probably something else going on. But like running to the bathroom urgent, I'm super bloated all the time. I can't eat foods without feeling uncomfortable. I'm getting heartburn. Maybe I'm chronically nauseous, like mild nausea all the time. Like, there's a lot of people that are just like kind of dealing with it, just living life, just saying like, this has been my norm. And then I've also had individuals where I call it the $1 million workup. Have gone to see a gastro, have gone and had a colonoscopy, have had like the whole like poop test where they watch you like pass stool, all these different things. And then they're like, here's a bottle of magnesium or something.
I was
Just
going
here,
to
take
say
this.
magnesium or Miralax, something that started with an M.
Miralax. There's the word, like a Miralax. Oftentimes it's Miralax, right? Like, here, just take Miralax. And not really getting to why they are chronically constipated. That could be thyroid, that could be stress impacting the motility, that could be like enzymes not being released, that could be microbiome, that could be a lot of things that are happening. Like, just you've chronically built up a lot of stool, so it's stuck there. So kind of like diving into the nitty gritty of that too. So yeah, I would say those are like the 3 big ones for groups, to answer your question. I know that I went a little tangent there, but
No, thank you for that. Thank you for that. And that's so interesting. And that's so helpful also, because like, is it thyroid? Is it something else? And again, this is not to shit on conventional medicine, but it's like now doing the deep in work. It's putting the band-aid, or like, here's another med for that symptom. And it's like something's going on. Like, something with my foundations isn't working right. And can we relook at my foundations? And would you say that that's what you do as a naturopathic doctor? You look at people's foundations.
Yeah. I mean, I would not be doing my job if I didn't ask some of the basics. Like, what are you eating? What are you drinking? How is your sleep quality? Are you going outside, like getting out in nature and getting vitamin D? And how are you unpacking your mental health? Because that's often also forgotten, which is why I love to have referral sources, because when I tie in the mental aspect, we've had a lot of like suppressing or holding on to emotions and not being able to like physically let them go in a healthy manner. And that becomes physical manifestations. And so, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask the basics. And a lot of times there are things that are going on that are either challenging or making it difficult to get those foundations in. And so how can we make it tangible? How can we start making baby steps towards better patterns? Because a lot of times I think people are overwhelmed that it's going to feel really tough. But eventually, if we can just do little small baby steps, it will become as easy as brushing your teeth. You know, we don't think about brushing our teeth at night or washing our face. Like sometimes we just have to like change out something that we're currently doing and just make it a little bit different. It's just those little edits. You know, I'm going to go to bed. I always go to bed at night, but how do I go to bed? Like, how do I put myself to sleep? Or how do I put in breath work or tie that? You know, I'll give a tip here. A lot of times when we're trying to like add in new things, we try to add too many things at once and we don't have like this pattern. So I always say like pick one thing and tie it to something that you already do on the daily. Like if your goal is like every time I get up in the morning and I go to my kitchen to get a cup of coffee, okay, that's your routine already. What can you do to attach it to that pattern? Like, okay, I'm gonna go get my cup of coffee, but when I go to do that, I'm gonna add in a protein source at the same time, or I'm gonna grab my like morning supplements, or I'm gonna, you know, when I'm brushing my teeth, that's another thing that people don't think about, right? When I brush my teeth, as soon as I brush my teeth, I'm gonna do some diaphragm breathing, like a couple breaths, and we're gonna be on our day. So it's tying, like, I hope someone takes this away. It's like tie your new things that you're trying to add into your lifestyle to something that you already do that's effortless.
Yeah. It's I think you name some things that are so simple and yet it's so hard for people because we
Yeah.
don't feel like we have the time to do anything, especially in this country.
Yeah. Well, the big thing I'm sure you know is like saying no.
Yeah.
People need to say
Boundaries,
no.
boundaries. Yeah.
No, you're not going to
Yeah.
do
It's
that.
a sentence. No, it's a complete sentence.
Yeah, I know. And then you probably seen this too. Saying no and not having to have an explanation for it.
Yeah. No is no.
So I agree. I think American culture is very busy, slam my schedule from point A to point B, you know, from I wake up from till I go to bed, or even beyond that, people are thinking about their things in their sleep, right? But I really think sometimes the biggest thing that we can do for our health is literally cutting the crap out of our, you know, thinking, make a list of the things that we're doing in our life and go, is it actually going towards a goal that I want, or is it not going towards a, like trying to identify what we're the things that we're doing. Is it meeting a goal, like taking us towards a goal, or is it moving us away from that goal? Like, for example, a lot of us scroll, right?
Yeah.
Is that meeting a goal that is the scrolling getting us anywhere with our health, our goals, whether it's like professional, personal, health wise, whatever. If it's not, then we need to cut that out so we have more time for other things. So
Do
sometimes
you
it's
have these type
reevaluating.
of yeah, do you have these type of conversations with a lot of your patients or clients?
Yes, absolutely. Everyone's different where we need to start. And sometimes we say, like, look, these are things you can do, but let's start with one that you feel like is going to be easiest for you to implement. But yes, I absolutely have. I'm a problem solver. I literally say, go home. If this doesn't work, you need to come back and tell me what you felt like was hard about it, because then we need to re-strategize.
Right, right. You sound like a therapist.
This is
You sound
why
like a
we get
therapist.
along so
Yeah, and it's because
well.
of the holistic. I think it's because you're trained holistically. And again, most doctors don't have the time to problem solve and don't have the time to help us in this way. And again, this is nothing against them because it's the system that is against them. And I know that a few people see you and they have nothing but positive things to say. They're like, "Oh, I love Dr.
Oh,
Danielle." It's like, "Yeah, me too. I love her too." And
that means the
I can see
world.
why. I can see why. It's because you are giving your patients the time that a lot of them, a lot of us don't ever get, especially seeing a doctor.
Mm-hmm. Well, it means the world. Like, I'm truly honored to work with all the individuals that walk through my door, even if it's for a short time or for a long time. Like, your
Mhm.
presence is really important to me, and it's my duty. I consider it my duty and my role to like try to help as best as possible. And sometimes that's here in my office, and sometimes that's redirecting. But it's really like that gives me life. That's why I'm here. It's why I'm
Mhm.
here. So
Yeah. So, when should someone come see you? And I probably shouldn't use the word should. When will when is the best time for someone to come and see you
that's
with
a
their
great
health?
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that if you are frustrated, like if you feel like you've had conversations with your primary care, or maybe you're just tired of going it alone. I have a lot of people that try to like kind of take care of their self, and they're frustrated with all the different resources that are over consuming, right? Like trying to do Google searches, and that's awesome. But if you're feeling really overwhelmed and you want something that's very personalized and very like tangible, then I think it's a really great time, especially if you're just ready. Um, if you are not just in a contemplation phase, but you're like, it's time and I'm ready to commit, that's a big time. And you'll make a lot of progress by having that kind of like motivation. And I'm always here as a cheerleader, because I know that that roller coaster of like motivation can go up and down. But I think for getting into it, you kind of want to be called to do it, right? I always think about like you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Mhm.
Um, if you're not ready to like take in that information, it's not time. It's not the
Mhm.
time for you. But if you're ready to, then I think it's a really great time to reach out, especially if you are looking for preventative care. Like you're ready to like, hey, I may feel good, but I want to prevent myself from having the health history that my family does, or
Mhm.
I just want to really like be optimized. That's a great time to come. But I also think it's a great time if you're like, I'm starting to feel these symptoms. I know they're off, and I want to have a really great conversation about my health. That's also a great time. So it will be different for everyone, but I think being open-minded and ready to like give back to yourself is really important when you start that journey.
I like that. Give back to themselves. And so you give the patients time. What else do you give them? Not that you have to give them money, but what is the advantage of working with you?
Yeah. Well, I think it's like on so many different things. Like I want to know who you are. So feeling like a
Mhm.
person, having a really great experience. It's really important to treat you as a personalized person. So like my plans, I really try to create for you
Mhm.
specifically. Like they'll never be like necessarily the same thing for everyone.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, just like a place for feeling comfortable. And like I said, my goal is for you to love taking care of yourself and enjoy it, even if you don't feel well. Like you want to be there and you want to help yourself. So that's my
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah. And so do people like see you in person, virtually, both, or what way do you see clients?
Yeah, so you can see me in person or you can see me virtually.
Mhm.
I'm very
Okay.
flexible.
You
Yes.
are.
I think
Okay.
yes. And then I'm also flexible on location because I actually see patients in Egan, and I also see patients at our home base here in Hudson, Wisconsin. So Egan, Minnesota, or
Ooh.
Hudson, Wisconsin. Yes. But of course, you can always do virtual too. And I think that's a great platform for those that are mamas or people that are busy with travel. I know work often takes us in different locations, or just like maybe the drive is prohibitive. Then I think virtual is a fabulous option.
Yeah. So with therapists, we can only see people where we are licensed in. So I'm licensed in Minnesota, Wisconsin. What about you? Do you have that stipulation also?
Yeah, so I really consider like if you've been seeing me in person, then there's a one-off. I kind of consider it more of consultation when you're out of
Mhm.
state, but there's still a lot of great things that we can do. So I have individuals that are like um they go away for the winter because our winters are so harsh
Yeah.
here for anyone that's not here in the Midwest. I have some that do go away. I do keep my Arizona license active. So even if you
Oh,
go to Arizona, I have that there.
okay.
But yes, like I do, we should be, here I have my Wisconsin and my Minnesota license. So that usually covers a lot of it because a lot of times people are just kind of like traveling through the cities or needing
Mhm.
to go see their family member that's maybe a little further away or something. I think that the virtual piece is still really great for that. So
Mhm. And then with your Arizona client, since you still have your license in Arizona, you can see clients or people from Arizona too then.
yeah. So I can see from Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Arizona as patients. And then
Mhm.
from other states, I'll do more client consulting. So I'm not their
Yeah.
primary care physician, but can help them kind of navigate the kind of functional realm so they know how to advocate for their health in their state. And I think that can be really helpful because, as I spoke, naturopathic medical doctors are not licensed or they're in the pre-licensure phase in some states. And so they may not have the same ability to get access to. And so
Mhm.
by me helping consult with them, they can ask the right questions, they can do research, they can take that to their doctor, have conversations. I think that can be a really great add on for those that are
Mhm.
not having like full access to us.
Mm. Okay. Wow. I have a naturopathic doctor too, and I love you, Dr. Danielle. Not that I chose them over you or anything. So it has truly changed my life. It has truly changed my life. And for anyone, or especially
Oh,
any woman out
great.
there who is on this path, who does not feel heard, who is wondering what's going on, I would say see a naturopathic doctor. And it's truly an investment in yourself. And when you
Mm-hmm.
don't have your health, you can't do anything else because I have been tired as hell and I've been feeling that way. And if I can't feel well, I can't do anything else too. And I
Mm-hmm.
I took my health in my own hands and found out what was going on with me. It's like, oh my God. So I'm not crazy. I'm not just gaining 25 pounds out of nowhere. It's like something happened to me to gain this weight. So any woman out there
Yeah.
who is struggling or have questions, who does not feel heard, a naturopathic doctor will change your life.
Yeah, and there's just check your state. You can put naturopathic doctor in the state that you're in, and usually their association will come up. There's also the AAP, so the Association for Naturopathic Physicians in the America, so like in the
Mhm.
states. You can also check their directory. Here in Minnesota and Wisconsin, we have directories as well that will help to narrow your search. So that's awesome.
Mhm.
So yeah, I advocate for looking for that if you've never heard of a naturopathic doctor, but are looking for more of that like, um, you know, hands-on care, even if it's between your annual appointments, it's still really
Mhm.
valuable.
Mhm.
So, and it's co-collaboration. I mean, that's what we want. We want to
Yeah.
feel like we have a team. So
Yeah. Yeah. And, thank you so much for sharing your journey and how you're forging your own path and you're totally owning it.
yeah.
And what does owning it mean to you?
I had to sit on this for a little bit, owning it, but I think it's just being willing and open to like hearing the like vibrations that you need at that time. Because I really believe in the quote, like you're not given a dream unless you're able to fulfill it. And I think if we're able to kind of like connect to those dreams that are being told to us, like we're gonna be always in the place that we need to be. So yeah, I think it's just like really tapping into like you and your authenticity. Kind of makes me think of my girl Lady Gaga and her song Born This Way. Like
Oh,
it,
yeah.
like we all have our own being, whatever that is. And I think you have to like own that. You have to like
Mhm.
get to know yourself. So
Get to know yourself. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And any final things that you want to say before we end our conversation today?
yeah, I'm gonna say what I say to my other ladies. You're not hormonal. Hormonal is not a bad term anymore. Hormonal is important. We want hormones. So if hormonal is spoken, it's going to be in the positive manner. And we just need to help support that, whatever phase you're in. So no longer are the days where we are crazy. We just want to, give you all the love.
I love that. Hear that, ladies? We are no longer hormonal. Is that right?
Not in the bad way. If you're going to use
Not
that
in a
term
bad
anymore, it's
way.
because it's going to be for a positive, because hormones are important. Without them, we would have so many more issues. We just need to learn how to harness those hormones to be like so powerful and mighty so that we feel great. So,
Hormones are powerful.
yeah.
Yeah. Hear that? Hormones are powerful. And thank you so much for being here and explaining what you do and forging your own path, owning it, and helping other people, and especially women, forge their own path about their bodies and to own it. So I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
And yeah, so if anybody is interested in working with Dr. Danielle, I'll have her information in the link. And you can see people in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Arizona, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you
But
so
thank you
much.
so much, Maya. I really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
I send my love. I
Thank
love your
you.
spicy self. Like, I love it. So we need more of that. We need
We
more like get shit
thank
done.
you. Yeah, yeah. Again, women are just done feeling the way we've been feeling. And it's like get that spiciness out, get that realness out, get that authenticity out, get all those feelings
Mhm.
that we've been told to suppress out. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're helping women with
We need to
that.
yeah. So thank you
Yeah.
so much. It's been so
Thank
fun.
you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So everybody else, I will see you next time. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and comment. And yeah, if you want to work with Danielle, all of her information is in the link below. So everybody, I'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.